Halloween was finally here. Ken, Gabe, and I spent the whole day at school planning what we would do for the night. Ken's mom had agreed to pick us up from our houses and drive us to school so we didn't have to walk by ourselves. Although it was Halloween, we were still a bit too young to be left on our own at night. I still had the problem of asking my father for permission to even go, but I had come up with a plan for that. My mom would be at the hospital all night. Halloween was one of their busiest nights, so she wouldn't be there till next morning, which means it would just be me and my dad. He isn't really one to celebrate, although he would put a bowl of candy on the porch so other kids wouldn't bother him while he was watching some game on the television. This would make it super easy for me to sneak out, since my room has a big window with a screen attached. A few months ago, I had accidentally knocked off the screen. I don't really remember what I was doing, but to not get caught, I messily put it back on. Good enough to not get into trouble, but it would still rattle when the wind blew at night. If I was careful, I would be able to take out the screen and go out the side gate to the front to meet up with Gabe and Ken. Recess came around and we were all hanging out by the benches eating some mini conchas Gabe's grandma made for us.
My mom said I could be a zombie cheerleader.
Oh wow, you're gonna be really scary.
That's not even scary. Zombies are for kindergarteners.
Beats your costume.
Zombies are not better than ninjas.
Don't argue.
You can't be a ninja. They wouldn't let you bring a sword to school.
I can still bring my nunchucks.
What the?
Nunchucks? You're gonna give yourself a black eye.
When are you gonna be, Erica?
I'm gonna be a witch, but a force witch. My dad's been helping me with my costume all week.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I'm gonna have leaves and plants all over my dress.
Wow.
My dad's even got this stuffed squirrel that's gonna sit on my shoulder. It's really cool.
See, even Erica's costume sounds cooler than a ninja.
Well, Erica can...
Be nice or I'll vex you.
Erica wiggled her fingers at Ken. We all laughed, while Ken grumbled, biting into his bread. I wish we could have stayed in that moment forever. The final class ending bell sang out, and all the students raced for their backpacks.
Don't forget, class. Grab a glow stick on your way out. I hope to see some of you tonight. Have a happy Halloween.
There was a bowl that sat next to the door of the classroom filled with multicolored glow sticks hung on necklaces. Our school would hand them out every year. Sometimes they were bracelets, whatever was available at the dollar store. Kids hastily grabbed one as they dashed out the door. Mine was green. We started chasing each other out to the front gates.
Smell you later, Alex. We'll pick you up at 6.
See you there.
I watched them leave, a lightness in my chest, but that was quickly brought down when I turned around and saw Aaron standing by himself by the front gate. He was looking around anxiously until a group of kids walked past him, one of them pushing Aaron to the floor. The group laughed as they continued. I furrowed my brow and stormed toward them. "Hey!" I shouted to the group marching over, but the group had already lost interest and walked away. I glared at them as Aaron dusted off the dirt from his pants. I turned back to face him, and he smiled at me slightly. But not his usual happy smile. It was a lot sadder. I opened my mouth to say something. "Aaron, My father's green truck pulled up to the curb. I swiveled my head between Aaron and the car. I have to go." I climbed into the car and stared at Aaron from the window as we drove off. I looked down at my feet, but shook off the thoughts in my head. I needed to stay focused for tonight's plan.
Hey, Alejandro. So I heard your school is having some Halloween celebration tonight?
I looked over at my dad. There was no way he found out about my plan. I hadn't even done anything yet. My dad pulled a flyer that had been sitting on the car's center console.
Some lady handed this to me when I drove in. Too bad you're too much of a wimp, or I might have taken you.
I tucked my head into my shoulders. A bit of anger flared in my chest. Once we got home, I went to my room, listening to my dad kicking off his work boots, and once the TV was flicked on, I shut the door. I crawled into my closet and pulled out an old sheet. It wasn't much, but I didn't have the money or time to buy a costume. I pulled the sheet over my face and cut holes out for the eyes. I looked over into the mirror to admire the work I had done. As I looked into the reflection, I noticed someone standing behind me. I whipped around, the cloth tangling itself around me, causing me to trip and fall on the floor. I pulled and tugged on the fabric trapping me until I found the bottom and pulled it off. The room was empty. I chalked it up to my eyes playing tricks on me. I was really tired, but it was probably nothing. I ran over to my bed, grabbing my pillow, jerking it and shaking it until the cover came off. I prided myself. I would use this as my candy bag, the perfect place to hide the sweets I earned tonight. I silently crept over to the door, peeking outside to listen to what was going on.
Oh, come on! The walrus right there!
My dad was watching some replay of a soccer game, as usual. I quietly closed the door again and eagerly waited for the clock to hit 6. My excitement began to die down after about 20 minutes. The days of not sleeping were catching up to me, and I had to find ways to keep myself awake. I tried reading, playing with my action figures, and even sorting my collection of Pokemon cards to kill the time. But my eyelids were getting heavier and heavier, and I let myself fall asleep, wrapped in my makeshift costume.
You made a promise! You're my friend!
I jolted awake, scrambling in the sheets as I wrestled in the folds. Once I freed myself, I whipped my head around, looking around. I saw my alarm clock. 6:05. No, oh no, oh no! I quickly grabbed my sheet and bag. I yanked the screen out and carefully put it down next to the window. Adrenaline began pumping through my system. If they knocked on the door or rang the doorbell, I would be found out. I swung my leg over the window and started climbing out before I fully went to the other side. Then I leaned back in to grab the screen. When the edge of the frame slipped out of my hand, my heart dropped as the screen fell. It caught on the open door of my closet, barely making a sound. I sighed in relief, picking it up once again, being very careful. I put the screen back in its place, albeit a little clumsily, but I did the best I could, and I raced towards the front yard. I peeked into the living room, my dad still distracted by the game on the TV. I smiled to myself. I did it! I moved to the front yard, dancing excitedly. The streets were already starting to fill with kids and parents, all dressed in elaborate attire. My heart raced with excitement. The echoes of Halloween musics and electric groans and moans rang out from the houses around me. Across the street sat Nurse Wakely. Her porch was decorated with orange tinsel and fake bats. She had a table laid out in front of her that was covered with various assortments of full-size candies, as well as some cartoon-printed bandages and stickers. I walked over to her excitedly. She motioned for me to come join her, so I looked down the side of the road and crossed the street.
Happy Halloween, Al. I was worried your father wouldn't let you out tonight. A boy shouldn't stay cooped up in the house all day.
I laughed nervously. Nurse Wakely had been my neighbor since before I was born. It was part of the reason she was one of my friends at school. I never talked to her much outside of school, but she was friendly with my mother. She stood up from her chair and went just past the entrance of her door to grab something.
I've been saving these for the kids with the best costume. And I think you deserve one.
She came back out holding 2 candied apples decorated to look like spiders. I held my pillowcase out towards her and she carefully put them in.
The extra one is for your mum. She'll need it after tonight's shift. Tell her I said hi.
Wow, thank you.
Now, go have fun tonight. And be careful.
I will. I ran off back to my side of the street when a car I didn't recognize pulled up in front of the house. I stopped in the road curiously, tilting my head to the side. The window rolled down and Ked popped his head out of the car window. Pieces of torn up fabric were wrapped around his head and hanging out of the window.
Hey Alex, we're over here.
Get your head back in the car! I swear to get out of the road! You're gonna get hit!
I rushed over to the car, practically jumping in the air with excitement. Ken's younger sister was strapped into her car seat, taking up one of the spots in the back, so I climbed into the passenger seat.
Kendall Price, if you don't put your head back in the damn car...
Alright.
Don't forget to put on your seatbelt. I don't want anyone flying through my windshield.
Al, why are you wearing a bedsheet?
It's my costume. I'm a ghost. The car got really quiet. Ken and Gabe stared at me blankly. Ken's younger sister babbled a little to herself, filling the silence.
That's so awesome.
Ken's mom began to drive off, heading towards the school.
You know my Abuelita says that ghosts are real.
What? No way. She's just trying to scare you.
No, they're not scary. She says ghosts are souls that are lost.
That's some pretty big stuff she's telling you.
Oh, but you guys do that thing with the dead people.
Day of the Dead.
Oh, my mom does that too. We put out food and coke for my abuelo.
That always seemed like a waste to me.
Is that why we don't do it, Ma?
Mm-hmm. I ain't wasted nothing in our house.
We all laughed as the car pulled into the school parking lot. We climbed out of the car and I was able to get a better look at everyone's costume. Ken was wrapped head to toe in shredded pieces of cloth. Still visible in the cracks of the cloth were his long-sleeve shirt and shorts. Gabe was wearing a long robe with a crest symbol on one side of the shirt. Underneath was a uniform, although it looked much more polished than our regular uniform. What happened to being a ninja?
I don't want to talk about it.
I think you look great, and look, you even match your sister.
Babies aren't cool or scary, Mom.
We made our way to the entrance of the school and saw that faculty were handing out maps with different rooms that were open for tonight. Only certain rooms and areas of the school were open for people to enter and explore. The library was one of the locations and was being used for concessions. We scanned the paper, debating which room to go into first. Ken's mom allowed us to fend for ourselves after handing Ken a $10 bill, and we started making our way to the first room.
Hey, fart face, you stole my costume idea.
We whipped our heads around to see Carson and Erica walking behind us. My eyes widened, and I felt a light warmness in my chest. Erica's costume was a puffy black dress decorated with colorful flowers and greenery. Her face was painted to match, with vines going along the side of her face and flower petals on the corners of her eyes. On her shoulder sat a stuffed squirrel that she was talking about earlier that day. She seemed to sparkle in the light of the hallway.
I so did not. Who are you calling a fart face?
A mummy is basically a zombie.
Mummies are cooler.
As if.
Hey, Al! Glad you could make it.
Yeah, you look, amazing. You look amazing.
Thank you. I like your ghost costume.
Yeah?
Where are you guys heading?
We haven't decided. We were just going to look around.
That's lame. I heard the Teach has her own class open, and she's been giving her students a special prize for visiting her room. So, I say we hit there first.
Alright, I'm in.
Sounds good to me.
We headed over to the classroom, and sure enough, our teacher was in the front of the room wearing tattered old-looking wedding dress. The class had been lit with fake candles and colored light bulbs, giving it a much different feel than the normal classroom from just a few hours ago. Our desks had been scooted to the walls of the class, and extra chairs had been added to the room. A few students and their families had already begun seating themselves. I cautiously followed my friends into the room, and we found our seats to watch the show.
Is it okay if I sit next to you? It's kinda scary in here.
Yeah, sure. My heart fluttered a little as Erica scooted close to me, but then a small wave of worry hindered my excitement. There was little room to escape if things got too scary. I swallowed harshly. I had risked too much in coming here to back out now. A few more people poured into the classroom before their teacher began her performance.
Welcome, all you ghouls and wanderers. You are now here to listen to my tales of sorrow and distraught.
Erica grabbed my hand and squeezed it a little. Ken and Carson covered their mouths to stifle their laughs as they pointed to the front. Gabe rolled his eyes, and we all focused again to the story.
This is the story of La Llorona.
She picked up a blue lamp that was on the table and held it to her chest. It illuminated her face from the bottom, distorting some of her features.
There have been many versions of this tale, as it is for many a true tale. But do not let this distract you.
Hey Al, you want to skip this one? I heard this story a bunch of times. I don't really want to hear it again.
I looked over to Erica, who was still invested in the story. This was not my first time hearing this story, and part of me felt like I would be able to sit through it, but another didn't want to take the chance.
You guys leaving already?
We're just gonna grab some snacks.
Oh, get me a soda.
We nodded our heads, snuck out the classroom, and went to the line forming outside the library. I felt a lot more relaxed with just Gabe around. He was a lot more comfortable to be around.
The classroom looks really cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can see through these. I stuck my fingers through the makeshift eye holes I had made, causing Gabe to let out a laugh.
Hey Al, this is gonna sound weird, but do you see things?
I tilted my head to the side slightly. A quick flash of memory from the bathroom came to me. What do you mean?
I mean like, well, you know, how you said you saw something in the bathroom.
My body instinctively tensed up at his mention of it.
It's not a bad thing, or at least my abuelita says it's not.
Your abuela?
She says you should come over sometime, and your mum can too.
Okay, I'll ask. We got to the front of the line and grabbed some snacks, an assortment of chip bags, sodas, and juice patches for the group, and found a spot to wait for them. While we waited, I noticed a boy standing on his own. He was wearing an explorer's outfit and carrying a green collector's case in his hand. It was Aaron. Our gazes met and he walked over to us. Hey, Aaron.
Hi.
There was an awkward silence, so I nervously twisted the pouch of juice I had in my hands.
I didn't know if you would come, but then I saw your dad, so I figured.
What? You saw my dad?
Yeah, he was out by the front. I guess you got him to say yes.
Panic hit me like a bullet train as I jumped up from my chair. Just as I did, the rest of the group had joined us at the spot.
¡Ay, mis hijos!
I have to go.
Jeez, Al, what are you so jumpy for? You didn't even hear the story.
Yeah, you totally should have stayed. We got these huge Hershey bars for visiting the classroom. Totally worth it.
You don't understand. I gotta go. My dad.
Slow down, Al. What's wrong?
Alejandro, where the fuck are you?
We all froze in our spots as we saw my dad storm out from the crowd of people. He looked to be stumbling around slightly, like he had been drinking. I grabbed the corners of my sheet tightly, hoping he wouldn't recognize I was hiding underneath. He stormed closer to our table, looking around, like a lion hunting prey.
Where the hell are you? Hey, you.
Who, me?
Do not talk back to me, punk. Where's my son?
Al?
I was shaking by this point. Ken gave a quick look to everyone around the table. We were all frozen in fear. He looked back up at the man towering over him.
Haven't seen him.
My dad glared at him.
Don't you fucking lie to me. He is here. I know he is here. Where is he?
He slammed his fist on the table, causing all of us to jump. This caught the attention of a few adults and bystanders around us. Ken looked around and managed to find his mom in the crowd and waved her over. My dad pushed past Ken and came directly towards me. My heart was racing. There was no way he could know it was me. Ken took the open soda can that was in his hand and threw it at my dad, causing it to spill all over him.
Run, Al!
You.
I threw the sheet off me and sprinted away. The soda was a brief distraction as my dad quickly turned back around and began chasing me. I didn't know where to run or where to go. I dashed through the halls, squeezing by students and their parents, trying to get away. By this point, people began to notice what was going on, although they did little to help, and mainly did their best to stay out of our way. But I didn't let that distract me. I managed to make it all the way to the playground fence. It was locked, but there was a small opening between the fence, so I squeezed my way through it, hearing the thundering footsteps of my father behind me.
You little shit, get back here.
I didn't stop running, but from behind me, I heard the sound of the chain link fence jiggling like someone trying to get through. I ran for the grass, and my heart sank, stopping me in my tracks. The grass had been cut. It was no longer long enough to hide in. I turned back around only to see my father storming after me. I did the only thing I could think of. Rosie! Rosie, help me! Please! I screamed as I began running once again to my hiding spot. Rosie, I need you! I made it to the clearing and turned around in circles, trying to find her, anyone, anything to help me, but there was nothing. I was cornered.
You little shit, thinking you can run away from me? I figured out your little plan, sneaking from out of the house. You should learn to cover your tracks better. I found the screen on the floor of your room.
He grabbed my arm, squeezing it so tightly I feared it would break. He began dragging me back to the main campus. Ow! Dad, I'm sorry!
I'll give you something to cry about.
He let me go and turned around to face me. He swung his arm back, knocking me to the ground. The pain was stunning. I couldn't think. I couldn't move. I just laid there still. Then a kick to my side knocked the air out of me. I opened my eyes to see Rosie in front of me.
Alejandro?
Help me. Help me, please.
Will you be my friend? Forever?
Okay. Rosie smiled at me as another kick landed on my head and everything blurred. I don't remember much of what followed. Flashing lights and the distant sound of sirens. There was yelling and a few people had pulled my dad off me. I remember the taste of iron in my mouth. I remember the warmth of the flames and watching the burning leaves dance in the sky.
Everything will be okay. You're my friend. Forever.